Hi Libra, welcome to your reading. Today we're going to talk about a certain aspect that is repeating 3 times over the course of 2021, which is Saturn square Uranus. We're going to also talk about Saturn being in your house of creativity, which it will stay there till March of 2023. So this is the video you can use throughout 2021 as well as later, because Saturn is going to be there for a long time. It's a 2.5 year transit that Saturn is in your house of creativity, love, passion, and joy. It's a very good placement to have. Moreover, in 2021, you have Jupiter, the planet of expansion and growth, sitting in your house of self expression as well. So, all the work of last 2.5 years that has been happening on you in terms of, removing the fears of the past, facing yourself, working on yourself in psychological fashion, and it would have been a difficult period from a home, family, property perspective. The last 2.5 years, when you have been building those foundations, when you have been reconnecting with your solid core in some ways through hardship, facing yourself and gaining more confidence in who you are. Now we start building on top of it. Now we put creativity on top of it. We focus on progression of our passions. We focus on appreciating ourselves a bit more, appreciating our uniqueness, appreciating our hobbies, creating lucrative business ideas out of the passions that we have. This is the house of joy. This is the house of love. This is the house of children. This is the house of you being you in your own skin after a long time in your element with boldness going out in the world. You have a concentration of planets helping you create something concrete and lucrative out of this faith in yourself during the course of this year. And Saturn will continue to restructure your creativity. It will continue to sort of restructure your self-expression, your creative juices, your passion for life in some way. So if over the course of last 2.5 years you have discovered something about yourself, you have found yourself back in some ways, you have found a new you in some ways, because the last not just the last 2 years but the last whole cycle of Saturn, the 4 cycles of Saturn, are very much focused on creating who we are as a person. It's like the first 17 years of our life, and the next 17 years of our life, they become about now making something beautiful out of who we have become, being on the stage in some ways. After having found ourselves in our own skin, now it's the time to enjoy life. It's the time to play. It's the time to perform. It's the time to get ready to take some risk in our life. Pride in your creations, love, children, hobbies, freedom of expression, your best colors, you in all your best colors, wanting to be noticed, wanting to be able to display your art, display your confidence, display your talents to the world, and gain out of that. This is the house of positive karma. All that's owed to us in some ways is returned to us when Saturn comes here. We create something unique. We get in touch with the child within. There's something new that happens in the life of our children. This is also the house of children. So either we give birth to a child, or we give birth to a project or a business that is our passion, or we give birth to our creative creation. Whatever we give birth to is an extended version of ourselves. It's a reflection of ourselves. So it's created out of self-love. And in some ways, Saturn being here, it teaches us the value of self-love as well. It teaches us to start appreciating our own talents in some ways. Start having faith in our intuition, our ability to create things in some ways. Create things out of scratch, create things out of our mind, create things out of our God gifted talents in some ways. This is the house of God gifted talents, the talents that you were born with, but because of cultural values or lack of confidence or faith in our own risk taking ability, we have repressed them in some ways. And Saturn over here tries to remove that emotional repression that was suppressing your expression. This is where the poets discover themselves, because they were too busy in some ways taking care of the responsibilities now becomes the time to give stability to and breadth to your self expression, learning to put your heart into what you're doing in terms of your creativity, in terms of your love, in terms of your children. So, finding the love that you truly love, finding the people you're really passionate about and not just living with because you have a responsibility towards them. This is the time when true depth is discovered in the relationships. And in some ways, these things do go through a period of test when Saturn is here. Because Saturn is trying to create something lucrative from the things that you love. And it is trying to restructure your risk taking ability in life, your ability to take risk on yourself in some ways. But it's also trying to remove the things that are sapping that out. So the relationships, the mundane hobbies that don't push you forward. This is where, Robin Sharma, I think he had a very beautiful sentence in one of his books. He had said that you can either play with your video game on your phone or you can create the work of your life. So when Saturn comes here, Saturn is a strict parent. But it's a parent who wants the best that is in you to come out here. So, in some ways, if there are things in your life that are wasting your talents, they're wasting your God given gifts, they will be in some ways removed from your life. You would restructure the way you put your hobbies to use. You would almost be pushed to make sure that you create something out of your talents. And there's a determination that comes with Saturn here. It gives you that discipline to pursue something creative. It gives you the discipline to put yourself in the stage, even if you're not in the area of visual arts or writing or photography or graphic designs, which are usually the talents that get restructured, that get more, expressed in a concrete fashion when Saturn is here, visual arts, writing, photography, graphic designs, putting all of that on the platform in some ways, or kid-centric fun professions like teaching, tutoring, not fun, but something that fills your soul in some ways. Being a CEO of a toy company or a daycare or a professor of some sort, you become a teacher, you become a visual art person, a writer, a photographer. So all these things that we are very passionate about, which have to do with children, which have to do with arts, which have to do with love, which have to do with doing that your soul thinks and knows that you're great at, but you might have suppressed because of lack of love for our own talents or lack of love for ourselves or our family values in some ways. Saturn tries to restructure and bring them out, but even if you're in your career, in a corporate culture, even Saturn over here helps bring out the confidence to shine, the confidence to stand up and be able to speak up because you have more faith in what you can do. And sometimes, as I said, Saturn tries to, it's a detoxer. It tries to reorganize, it tries to resolve, it tries to redefine what is fun for you. So sometimes the things that used to be fun before, they dry up because they're not actually giving you fun. They're just excuses to fill up the time in some ways. So something more fulfilling as a hobby, something more fulfilling that takes your time. Similarly on people, if you had multiple relationships or multiple people in your life who you called as somebody you loved, somebody could define that as wasteful love affairs, they go away. The creative potential is seriously pursued, love is seriously pursued, children are seriously pursued. You create your legacy here. You create an extension of yourself, whether it is in form of the children that you're so passionate about, a business you're passionate about, a love that you're passionate about. There's a work of passion that is given birth to. What do you want to leave behind you? That is created when Saturn is here. Saturn comes here only once in 29 years. So it's a very rare transit to have, and it is one of their most positive transits. It makes a positive aspect with you. It wants to create something lucrative. And you have Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius is a lucrative sign. It does so by connecting with people. It does so by exchange of brilliant ideas. It does so by being more free about sharing your unique ideologies, your unique ideas. And this is the house of speculation and risk taking. So, some amount of prudent risks are taken. This is the house of life, What is your legacy? What is the meaning of your life? What sets you apart? What's your impact on future? Saturn gives you the discipline to do something meaningful with your talents and become the teacher of your unique talents in some ways. So, a lot of people become the teacher of the art, teacher of photography, graphic design, teacher of students in some ways. We take responsibility of what we are creating. We structure tangible creativity. There's a responsible play element, self discipline in sports, self discipline in love, self discipline in hobbies and passions. We take ourselves and our talents much more seriously when Saturn is here. We gain more foundational substance in them. We, in some ways, when Saturn and Jupiter are here, we fall in love with ourselves and our life. We learn to be in love with ourselves again. And sharing a vision with solid love partners, people who will be there in your life, who understand, who are more like friends with you, who will shape you, who will be with you in this journey together. Hobbies would include gadgets, electronics, online trading, social network, connections, and this Aquarius always has a social element to it. So, social element either through interaction with people or a humanitarian cause that becomes very passionate to you. You will solidify something you're passionate about into a career, into a lucrative opportunity. This is an excellent time to go in the direction where your heart has always desired, but somehow you felt you didn't have it in you to go there. And now, this new form basis of confidence and faith in yourself, you go after that. So, the people and things and which are sucking life out of you in some ways and reducing the passion in your life, they in some ways move away because you vibrate at a very different frequency. So don't mourn the people who are leaving your life. Don't try to think about the losses that you might have had on the process of learning to take more risk on yourself. Children, if you have any at this time, they and by default, because your Aquarius is in your house of children, your children could be by birth a little bit more rebellious. My husband is a Libran. My daughter is definitely, but they're genius. They're unique. They're progressive. They're in their rebellion. There is genius about them. They're almost like friends with you. They're gainful in nature. So when Saturn is here, you learn also to structure their creativity. We cannot structure what they do with their life, but we could provide them guidance with it. We could create the right environment for their creativity to grow. So that's one of the things I've seen turn out. Either we have children at that time. Normally when Saturn is here, it's and especially Jupiter here this year is a very positive aspect to have children this year for those of you who are looking to do. But if you already have, or there's a business that is going to be like a child for you, will nurture it, you will grow it, you will give it the right foundation, the right boundaries to grow. As I said, humanitarian work out of a sense of responsibility to the society, that's an excellent outlet of this and a positive use of it. We form platonic friends, long-term friends. They could be elder to you. Love life is very unique this year, and it's going to be emphasized in some ways. You'll create things out of love. While your power, your ego, your anger, if it's coming in the path, you learn to handle that in relationships in some way. And we'll be put in those challenging times because Uranus is in your house of power. When Uranus is in our house of power and transformation, we are put in situations where elements that were not very commonly known about us, they come out in the open. So sometimes, you will find people telling you that I have never seen this side of you. That's a very common thing to say for Uranus transit in the 8th, which you're having right now, and it will continue till 2026. The objective of Uranus again over here is to transform the way you handle your power. Libra, as a sign, you don't tend to yield power over others. You're a Venus ruled sign. We attract power, we attract benefits, we attract the things versus forcing them. Uranus, when it comes here in our house of power, we learn what we are made of to start with. we sort of free any shackles of, inhibition. Oh, I should not be proud. Oh, I should not talk about my talents. Oh, I should not be, you know, if there's content to back you up, you should be talking about your talents. So that inhibition that keeps our power subtle in some ways, that inhibition in some ways will move away, and you'll be put in situations where you'll have to act powerful, especially in joint relationships. Uranus in the eighth house deals with how we share powers with others, how we share resources with others. Uranus is the planet of freedom. So, anybody and anything, any patterns in dealing with others that have been blocking you to express the full power of you or how you are, you would sort of, you'll remove all those inhibitions. And there's an extremely good side of this, which is that we never go to the patterns that diminish our light. And we learn to, for good, remove those patterns. But when square happens, square is a hard aspect. When Saturn square Uranus happens 3 times this year, you'll be finding yourself in those situations where your power would be challenged. You'll have to overcome an old pattern. The places where in the past you used to hide, you in some ways would be forced to display self-love and be on the forefront, and that will give you gains in your life. Taking a risk on yourself and going full out at that time will pay off this year. So when Saturn is here with Uranus 3 times right now, the first time in February, you might be seeding something in that direction right now. Then the second time they're going to meet in June, you might be modifying that in some ways. Then in December, the final square happens and you'll be giving birth to it. So at this point in time as well, we feel this tension when the square happens, but it becomes the source of endless creativity for us. You'll be forced to sort of break out of an old pattern, a self-defeating pattern in some ways. And it will push you. It will push you. What was I waiting for? The question that is asked when the square happens is what am I waiting for? What am I waiting to say what I need to say? What am I waiting to positively, creatively express myself? What am I waiting to take this next, progression for myself? You feel in charge of your life. And in doing that, the unconscious complexes that have been on the way to get there in the past, they are dealt with and freed from. And it's not an easy process because it's a friction, but because of it making such an excellent aspect with you, you'll be empowered to go towards it. Your personal creativity, your passion, knowing what it can result in will drive you. There would be some destructive forces which will be on the play below the surface. These are psychological in nature, or they could be an actual person sometimes. This is addiction to a person, addiction to a substance, addiction to a pattern, addiction to a negative friend, addiction to a love person who is really toxic for you, or addiction to giving your power away in a joint situation. So when you get this opportunity, this force pulling you away from that, Saturn is telling you to restructure the love for you, find that part of you that loves you more than anything else to move away. Not applies to everybody, but it could be a dysfunctional love affair or a love relationship or a dysfunctional situation at work where we have been compromising for way too long. And it clearly is diminishing our light, and we've been taking that in a very positive fashion, as most Librans do. They try to find balance in every imbalanced situation, but Uranus over here doesn't take imbalance anymore. It doesn't want to take unfair give and take in any partnership, in any relationship, and you would sort of snap out of it, and you would do something where you show yourself that if nobody else needs to do that, but I definitely love myself. So you'll go creatively independent. You'll go and do something fun for yourself. You would start with something that you've been thinking about for ages and ages to do creatively, or in financial life, or in trading, or in sharing your gifts in some way. And it's essentially like, again, thought process. What was I waiting for? And Saturn also helps us, narrow down our choices. There could be many ways to take a risk on yourself. There could be many we could do something out of impulse. So Saturn is like, let's think about this and create a strategic plan about it, and then share your gift. Share your gifts, make money for yourself, create something substantial out of your passion, give birth to your passions. Children, it's like, when we have a child within which has been suppressed because of some reason, or where we have not given that child the air to breathe, which is within us, we would want that child to come out. You would enjoy the child within. You would want to go out. And similarly, when you're dealing with the children, you have to be very careful with so much concentration of planet here. It's like one person, one child can take all of your attention. If we learn to have fun with our children here, enjoying our children without getting lost in their problems in some ways. Similarly, for yourself, you would want to love life in some ways. Focus more on maybe social relationships versus focusing on one person alone. Because the concentration of planets in your house of passions and love can make us very focused on one direction, focused on one passionate project, focused on one child, focused on one marriage, focused on one love interest, focused on trading, focused on one single thing. And which is what Saturn wants you to do. It wants you to narrow down the focus so you can create something great out of that. That's how legacies are created. But as I said in the introductory video in February, we can get overwhelmed with so many planets in one house. So this is like a person who is really serious about converting a business into something, or really focused on their children, really focused on one person they really, really love and want to create a long-term life with them. And they've found that person. But they lose track of everything outside. It's like the world outside does not exist. So you got to go outside when that happens. Go to your friends, find, a platform where you can express and connect with people. It could be a digital platform. Dabble yourself in terms of, hobnobbing, socializing a little bit. You are an air sign. You need exchange of ideas. As much as there's a lot of focus on you, and, this is the house of sun. Single focus on one person, you. So shine the light on the other side when it gets too much, because you as a sign are not so used to having this kind of energy focused on you. So find it easier maybe to sort of, maybe bring out other people's talent, other people's work, take a little bit of pressure once in a while away, and sort of go out and do some sort of work with a group. In terms of relationships, more social relationships, friends who love you, taking a bit of heat off, keeping relationships for now a little bit impersonal maybe at some point in time, because it can get a little bit hot and heavy in moments when Saturn has so much energy and Jupiter is expanding that part. It's right in your face to some extent. So, but this ongoing dialogue within yourself would be a key pleasure for you this year. The ongoing dialogue that my desires and my love and my creative pursuits, they need an outlet. We live one life, and I want it to go in certain ways. But when it gets too much, take a social group with you. Show your talents on a platform. Take a social networking thing, so you are sort of out with people. And it's a gainful thing for you to do as well. You are excellent in networking. You're great in exchanging ideas. So the other side is also going to be fulfilling and structured for you. But the key outcome, in my view, will be a legacy of this year. And I think you would be in love with life again. You would have this. It's like a unique year. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember 29 years back how that happened. But we didn't have Uranus at that time in this house. It's a very rare transit to have Uranus in your house of power. And you have it till 2026. It entered here in 2018. In the last 2 years, you might have felt that there's a switch which has flipped in some ways, because it's a season of transformational events that Uranus brings about. Uranus is saying, we got to evolve, we got to purify, we got to let go some of the old things. Because who you're becoming now, those things don't serve you anymore. Releasing old life goals in some ways, releasing old ideas about money, releasing anything that hurts your health and doesn't let you go to the next level. You would be sort of, anything that sort of dims you in some way, that will get highlighted. It will get highlighted because you've got to get rid of that in this cycle. And some life-changing events usually always happen when Uranus is in the 8th house. It's a 6, we still have 5 years of it, all the way till 2026. You will find yourself put in a situation where you got to free yourself from the old manner. You'll have to rise above in some ways. And it suddenly puts you in the limelight. We've seen this happen with Kamala Harris, with AOC, who are Libras as well. It just puts you in a position where you suddenly have to turn the situation. You're suddenly in the spotlight. And it's like, you're on the stage so far, you were working on yourself, you were doing your thing, and suddenly the light goes on you. And it's performance time. This year, 2021 Libras for you is performance time. And it's going to be very fulfilling. It's going to be very enjoyable in many, many ways for you. So good luck for that, Libra, and I'll see you in the next video.